Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Brett Hoffstadt. He is here to celebrate Goodnight Moonbase. Before we invite Brett into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Please be sure to check out our Pinterest page, Reading With Your Kids. And, of course, we'd love for you to check out our Reading With Your Kids YouTube channel. That is one of the places you can find all of our Drawing With Your Kids videos. You can also find all of our Drawing With Your Kids videos at drawingwithyourkids.com. And, of course, we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can click on the contact button at the top of the page and send us a message. Let us know what we're doing well, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. Join us right now from Folsom in the great state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate a couple of great STEM-based books. We're going to start our conversation talking about his book, Goodnight Moonbase. Please welcome to the show, Brett Hoffstadt. Hey, Brett, how are you?
Hello there, Jedley. I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show. Thrilled to be here.
I'm super happy that you're on the show. Quick looking at your books. You are an engineer, and you're all about bringing science and STEM to young kids. Am I right about that?
That's right. I have a long background in engineering, mainly aerospace and aviation. And throughout my whole time, I've been very interested in spending time to mentor younger people, encourage them to pursue education and careers in a STEM field. And there's just fantastic opportunities out there. We need more kids excited about these things to stay with them. So that's a big reason why I wrote Goodnight Moonbase and several other books that are kid-friendly, kid STEM books.
You know, my daughter's fiance is in the aerospace engineering field, and not too long ago, my niece is looking to get into engineering, and she wasn't sure what area. She decided on biomedical engineering. But before that, with the help of my daughter's fiance, my niece and I and one of her friends were invited out to sit down with an amazing engineer in the aerospace field and the hypersonic technology field, and I sat through an afternoon of a master class of engineering. It was absolutely fascinating. I didn't get most of it. Most of it went right over my head, but we learned the history of jet propulsion and saw inside all these jets and saw new jet engines being built, and it was just fascinating. And I know that there are loads and loads of kids out there who would be even more fascinated than I was if they had the opportunity to just understand what's out there for them.
Well, I'm sure that's true, and what I'll also say from my experience is most of us that work in the engineering fields or physics or science, we really are very eager and welcoming to others who want to learn about what we do. And so as you found, once you sit down with somebody, they're happy to talk for a long time about what they know.
Yeah.
There's just tons of exciting knowledge out there, but what excites me the most is still what is yet to come. Mm-hmm. We haven't really, in a lot of ways, and especially as a species, I believe we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. So
So tell us about Goodnight Moonbase.
Well, Goodnight Moonbase was inspired by a lot of the efforts that are now bringing us back to the moon for people and with people. And so I thought, through my writing of books, my first one I published in 2014, and it was a career advice book for people to go into the aerospace or aviation fields, and it's called How to Be a Rocket Scientist. And so that was my first attempt to inspire kids, young people, young adults to get into the field. But I realized that the sooner we start inspiring kids and exposing them to these topics, the better. Mm-hmm. And so eventually I thought, well, what's the soonest we could start? And I thought that would be a bedtime book for toddlers. And so one day I just thought about the popular books that are out there, and Goodnight Moon is one, of course. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have a bedtime book, instead of being about the moon, to be a bedtime book on the moon, and transport kids to the moon for bedtime so they can imagine themselves there. And I'm a believer in the power of visualization and future projecting. And so I truly believe that the more kids we can help to imagine themselves on the moon or imagine other people on the moon, the sooner and the better we'll get there. Yeah. And it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. And so what's really powerful to me, if you think about it, Jedley, within the next 20 to 30 years, we will definitely have people living on the moon full time. Because within the next few years, we're going to get back there for the first time. There's many efforts to make a permanent moon base, a presence on the moon for humanity. And so if that's 20 or 30 years from now, the kids who are alive today are going to be those people. Yeah. They're with us now. Yeah. So if we can reach them, hopefully Goodnight Moonbase will be their first inspiration, giving them a vision and some enchanting images of what it could be like on the moon. And if it inspires them for a lifetime, then hopefully they'll be bringing the book with them on the moon.
Well, I am old enough to have been alive and remember exactly where I was when we first landed on the moon. And I remember how excited everybody was leading up to that moment. And it really was something. I think that most of the human race was excited about. I mean, we were in a competition with Russia, but I think we were just hoping that we would break through and land on an extraterrestrial world. And that was so exciting and so inspiring. And then it fizzled out. I mean, we're hearing, about Elon Musk and SpaceX and the Amazon Blue, and I'm guilty of it. I can't remember the name of the
Blue Origin.
Yeah. I mean, these things are happening, and we're hearing about it, but it doesn't come close to the excitement that we felt back in the 60s.
Well, I'm hoping to change that with Goodnight Moonbase, because there's news coverage about it, but maybe it isn't yet anyway like the global phenomenon and the global interest that was back in the 60s. And so I think if we get families involved with this effort and something that they can share with their kids every night and talk about it, then that will introduce them to what's happening. It'll get them excited about it. And let me also say, one thing I've done with the book Goodnight Moonbase is to partner with a lot of organizations that are helping us get back to the moon or are promoting humanity back to the moon. Mm-hmm. So when people read Goodnight Moonbase, at the end of the book, they can go to my website and then they'll learn about these other organizations. They're fantastic, often like nonprofit organizations. And so hopefully that will be an introduction and a pathway to them to learn about these groups and other efforts, because there are efforts around the world, international, that are excited about humanity going back to the moon. They want to encourage it for the right reasons, to be peaceful and cooperative. And So if we have a critical mass of people learning about these things and knowing about them, then we're in a great spot for humanity as we go forward.
Yeah. What do you think, and obviously you talk a little bit about what life on the moon will be like. What's your vision? What do you think it would be like living on the moon for you?
For me, well, I don't think I'll be there, but you mean what I see?
Sure. What do you see life on the moon being like?
Well, it will be really, it's the first time we're going to settle a new world beyond Earth. There's a lot of interest and excitement about going to Mars. Mm-hmm. As you probably know, with Elon Musk and NASA. But that's a place very far away. Before we get there, we really need to settle on the moon first as our launching point and as a nearby, place from the Earth. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of reasons for that. The moon has some gravity, so we can walk around and live there. But I imagine there's actually a lot of people working on underground facilities for the moon, how to use the moon dust to build structures and building materials. There's even concepts of 3D printing buildings on the moon using the regolith, the moon dust. And so it's definitely going to be a long-term international effort, but I think there's people dedicated to figuring out how can we live there full time and deal with the health issues, radiation. There's a lot of technical, complex subjects involved with it. But what's also a point I try to make in Goodnight Moonbase and my other books is that we don't just need the technical, hard skill, classical engineer types with physics and materials. We also need people that come from many other disciplines. Like you mentioned biotech. We'll need biologists there. We'll need plant experts, how to grow food on the moon. We'll need interior designers even to design the spaces for us. And so it's going to take people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. And so the more people we get involved with it, the more it will be a thriving civilization on the moon. You
think there's going to be a need for magicians up there?
I think so. We'll need people that have a sense of humor, I think is good. We'll need to have recreation of some kind and enjoyment. We'll have to play. So that's one thing that's exciting is to think about the sports and the play we can do on the moon with low gravity.
Yeah, I could hit it out of the park on the moon, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think. Imagine if we had some sports broadcasts from the moon. Everyone on Earth could watch and have fun, watch fun things happening. Even indoor sports, if it was basketball or ping pong or something, that would be more interesting.
I might be able to dunk on the moon.
I'm sure you could.
I'm sure. Yes. Well, one of the other books that you wrote that I want to talk to you about is Exploring Smart Cities. It's an activity book for kids ages 3 and up. What kind of activities are we going to be doing in this book, and what kind of STEM and STEAM ideas are we going to be learning?
Well, this is a book I'm really happy about because I was able to partner with one of the world's experts in smart cities, Jonathan Reichenthal. He wrote Smart Cities for Dummies, which is an adult book. But what was interesting was he found out that when people would contact him and say, hey, I'm reading your book, Smart Cities for Dummies, because I work in city planning or I'm a civil engineer. I really love it. So, but my teenage kids are reading it too. I have to take my turn with them to read this book. And so I approached him and I thought, well, let's introduce kids to these topics. And so it's become a popular book for them. And so we have a wide range. We made a real conscious effort to actually work with teachers and have multidisciplinary types of activities. So there's word games like crossword puzzles and word searches. There's also hands-on activities like some art projects and craft projects. There's a lot of outdoor activities where you actually have to leave the house and go outside And there's one game, it's a car trip bingo game. While you're in the car, you try and spot things around the world that you drive around that are related to smart cities. And there's also some essay or writing type activities. And there's some 2-player or 3-player games and activities in the book too. So it's very broad, and it's fun for a lot of kids. We've had kids share their coloring pages with us that they make. And so it's a fun book, and it also, our goal there is to inspire kids to learn more about these things that they will need to participate in if we want to have a prosperous future ahead.
Now, when you're talking about a smart city, you're not talking about Boston, where we have Harvard and MIT and Boston University. Smart city is something different in your mind, right?
Right. So smart cities are cities that use technologies for the benefit of the people in the city and integrate those technologies into the city operations. So it's everything from putting sensors on the roads to look for road damage. It's integrating big data with city operations so cities can learn what are the most important things to fix. It could be things like sensors in the water systems so they can detect leaks. If there's water leaks, they can fix them. And so we give a lot of other examples in the books too. In the book, there's some fun technology things that will happen, like autonomous vehicles, autonomous cars. There's flying cars. There's some companies working on those now. And so there's also some topics about renewable energy, advanced energy systems, and Internet of Things, maybe you've heard about. But so there are some adult concepts there, but we give a nice introduction to them at a kid level. And so hopefully when they start learning about them in school, they'll remember, hey, this sounds familiar. I learned about this before, and it will give them a head start in life.
I think that's fantastic. You know, a lot of our kids are hearing a lot about climate and climate change, and I think a lot of what they're hearing about is very frightening to them. And I'm hoping that through books like yours and others, kids can start understanding that, yeah, there's some issues. We have some definite challenges, but as a species, we've faced challenges before, and we can figure out a way to mitigate some of the changes that are happening so that we can all thrive in the future.
Right. I agree. I think I am bothered by the amount of fear and worry that a lot of kids have about climate change. And I think we need to do a better job to tell them that we can be smart, we can be innovative. Humans have solved a lot of problems in the past. Mm-hmm. And I believe the best path forward for dealing with climate change and other major risks is to be innovative and creative and to work together. And we really have plenty of time to work on these problems and solve them together. Yeah. But we just need to have the right attitude. We need to believe we can do something about it, and then we need to have the good knowledge to do something about it. So we need more engineers, we need more scientists, we need more innovative people, and that are looking forward to these challenges and as problems to solve. Because I'm sure we can find solutions. We just need to inspire kids to take action.
Yeah. And I really love you've said this a couple of times here in our conversation, this idea of working together, and that engineering, that STEAM, that it's all about coming together to work together to solve problems. As I mentioned, my daughter's fiance is an engineer. I've met lots of engineers. One of the things that I found really fascinating in talking to these engineers is that they didn't say the most important thing about being an engineer is knowing this or knowing that. They all said, well, the most important part of being an engineer is understanding what problem you're trying to solve. And I think that that's a great kind of place for us to start with our kids, helping them understand what's the problem and what's the best way to solve this problem, and who can we best work with to solve it.
Well, I think that's true. Was it Einstein maybe that said that the most important thing is not finding an answer, but asking the right question? Somebody said that.
He might have. We didn't hang out that much together, but that sounds like him.
But I think also related to that is curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
The more curious we can be, the better. And so I think with the books we've made, I really want to inspire curiosity, because the world is amazing out there.
Yeah.
With the cities around us, with the moon, going back to the moon, we, like I said before, if you look at the long view of humanity and technology, we're really just getting started.
Yeah.
So I believe the moon is our first step beyond Earth, and with Goodnight Moon Base, people, parents, and kids can dream about living on the moon, and then after that will be Mars. But there's great futures ahead, and we do need people from all backgrounds to think about these things, so they can find a place for them to contribute and play a role.
Yeah, I'm excited. What's the one technological advancement or invention that you've seen in your lifetime that is your favorite, or the thing that just has amazed you the most?
I would say, since I have a aviation aerospace background, I love what is happening with SpaceX and private space exploration. Like you said, we accomplished great things in the 60s and 70s with the Apollo moon program. And at that time, it took a national effort to keep it going, and we didn't do that. We had a lot of other things happen with NASA, but we did miss an opportunity there to keep going. And so it was the breakthroughs that Elon Musk made with reusable rockets. Mm-hmm. As he said before, imagine if every time you took an airline flight, they destroyed the airplane after each flight. That would never happen. Mm-hmm. You have to have a reusable vehicle to make it economical. And that's what he's done. So I think that's the most exciting breakthrough. And I'm really excited about his Starship rocket that will launch soon. Hopefully it should launch this year. And there's even, I don't know if you've heard about the Dear Moon mission, that will have a Japanese billionaire bought the entire flight on a Starship that will circle around the moon. And there's 10 passengers he's taking, and they're all artists that applied to be passengers. And so it's going to be a spaceship full of artists going around the moon and back to Earth. And they'll all be able to talk about their experience, share it with people. And that is supposed to happen probably next year.
Wow.
And so that will be a great time for kids to learn about the moon and hear other perspectives about it. So we're in for some exciting times in the next few years.
Well, you've really piqued my curiosity and my interest, and wow, what an amazing a spaceship filled with artists going around the moon. That's pretty cool.
Yep, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about you and find out about all the different books that you've written.
All right, great. Well, thanks. Well, for Goodnight Moon Base, you can look in any bookstore, in a store in your neighborhood or online, or you can go to my website, goodnightmoonbase.com. It's easy to remember, and you'll find some illustrations from the book there. You'll find the groups that you can support. So one thing I didn't mention, every person that buys the book, when they go to my website with a special link they find in the book, they can donate a portion of their purchase to one of those groups I mentioned, and you can read about those books. So, and I'm donating a portion of proceeds from every book sale to those organizations. Then for the Smart Cities book for kids, you can go to smartcitybook.com/kids, and you'll find the two books there. There's the activity book, which has rhymes and poems throughout the book as a narrative to go through the history of cities and the future of cities. And people like the rhymes so much, then we made the bedtime rhyme book, with just those rhymes. Mm-hmm. So if you want the bedtime book, you can get that. If you want the same rhymes with activities that go along with each page, then we have the activity book for kids too.
We've had a really fascinating time speaking to the author of Goodnight Moonbase. Our guest has been Brett Hoffstadt. Brett, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Dudley. Take care and take charge, and thanks for all you do with the podcast here.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tanya Bayrami. She'll be here to celebrate Golden Chick. It is a bilingual English and Persian children's picture book. It's it's a really fascinating interview about the book, about translations, about language, a little bit about what's going on in Iran right now, a little history. Really fascinating. Tanya is a wonderful guest. You don't want to miss it. That's the next episode of the podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our guest, Brett Hoffstadt. Please be sure to check out Goodnight Moonbase and Exploring Smart Cities. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Will Cheever, Cassandra Masonet, Sabrina Wu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.